Well, what a weekend it was in the Sky Bet Championship. Loads of results that made me go, wow. And one of them, George, was Millwall 0, Middlesbrough 3.
Yeah. I mean, of all of the teams that are currently have won all of their games, and I know in the Championship we've only had 2, Middlesbrough is kind of the weirdest one, because not only did they beat Swansea 1-0 on opening day in a terrible game of football won by a set-piece goal, their 2 Championship wins have also have a 4-0 defeat at home to a League One side, just like right through the heart of them in the cup in midweek. So like, it's been a bizarre start to Rob Edwards' reign as Boro manager. But this in itself is a really impressive result, and also in the second half a really good performance, because the first half they were terrible. Again, Millwall had by far the better of the first half, came close with Casper De Norre, a good save from him, preventing Boro from going 1-0 down before Hayden Hackney, with a really, really well taken goal, a lovely finish just after half time, kind of sorted them out. Morgan Whittaker, who was obviously very poor in the second half of last season, with a really nice bit of play down the right hand side for Hackney's goal, which was followed by Alfie Jones, who was brilliant on the day, finishing off well from a corner. And finally, Bergsorg, after a sumptuous Finazaz assist.
What was that? A scoopy little dinky little thing?
In my notes, I've written he must play golf, because it feels like the kind of chip shot that you can only really envisage in your mind if you're a golfer.
Over a bunker, short-sided. Yeah. Don't worry about that. Azaz will put you close.
Yeah, basically. Azaz off the bench as well, yet to come back into the starting lineup in the league.
And the new boy Hansen came on at half-time and was involved in the early build-up of that Hackney goal as well. I think Hackney was playing a bit higher, dropped a bit deeper to play next to Morris. Hansen came on, him and Whittaker looking a bit more lively as a duo. So positives there from a Boro point of view. And very front-footed from Edwards as well at half-time.
Definitely.
I feel like making a half-time switch when you've been second best and then winning 3-0 is one of the coolest things you can do as a manager.
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree. Kante, their new signing, was the man that came off at half-time. So yeah, it's interesting this, because I think had Millwall gone ahead in the first half as they maybe deserved to do, then the narrative around Edwards in the start would have been very, very different. But instead, it's 6 points from 6. It's some players such as Whittaker, Morris, Hackney, Jones, who settled in really well, playing well, and some positivity. And you just have to write off what happened in midweek as a abnormality that there's no point focusing on, because 2 games, 2 clean sheets, 4 goals scored, 6 points. It's a really, really good start to the season for Boro. And I think that's important for Edwards, because we know that last season, what happened at Luton came about because of a really bad start to the season, where when they played okay, they couldn't really find ways to pick up points, and that meant that suddenly they're in a tailspin off the back of a managerial change in the summer that happened relatively late in the summer, and a lot of the negativity surrounding Boro coming into the season around their transfer dealings, that they're now bringing players in later than they'd have liked, but they are doing it, and they're picking up points. And it feels like those of us who are concerned about them, and I really was concerned about them in doing the 1-24 research. It's early days still, and there's a couple of defeats away from again looking like there are reasons to worry, but they can't have made a better start.
Sammy Silvera's playing left wing back. Not sure what's going on there.
Why not?
But by all accounts, acquitting himself very well.
Yeah.
Well done, Sammy. Right, straight in near the top of the Championship segment, we've got the Sky Bet Surprise feature. That is our weekly feature, analysing the anatomy of the biggest shock of the weekend across the Sky Bet EFL as per the odds on Sky Bet. And we're in the Championship again.
We are, Preston North End, the biggest price winners with Sky Bet, beating Leicester City 2-1, following up a decent point away from home at QPR on opening day, with a win here against the newly relegated side, and did so pretty well.
They were very impressive. Very, very impressive. They went 1-0 up early in the game, and it was a good piece of quick distribution from Daniel Everson. And that's the second time we've seen that from him in 2 league games so far. Really strong start to his return. What is his 3rd spell, but now permanently the Preston keeper. Now, the opening goal did have something of a helping hand, if you like, from the Leicester keeper, Stolacic.
So weird.
Reminded a bit of when you play FIFA against someone who's just a bit of an idiot and all they do is hit triangle so their goalkeeper runs out of goal every time a through ball comes, and then get nowhere near it, and you just run around them and score every time. I mean, that is literally exactly what happened.
But what's so weird about it is normally when a keeper makes that decision to make that kind of move, there is a clear attempt to play the ball. And yet he just runs out, and at no point is he ever in striking distance of being able to dive at the ball or try and kick the ball or anything. It's bizarre.
An error from Stolarczyk, of that there's no doubt, but what a fantastic finish from Alfie Devine. I think because it's an empty net, you might assume that this is an easy skill, but Devine is approaching the right-hand touchline, and as a right-footed player, taking a right-footed shot is going to hit a shot that is always curling away from goal. So the area that he had to aim at, very, very short. It feels a bit like a sort of fielder at cover having to hit 1.5 stumps with a run-out attempt, and he absolutely nailed it. And you know what? Devine was so impressive in the first half, playing a sort of right-sided midfield role and constantly getting in behind the Leicester left-back into space. Had a lot of joy down that side. Thierry Small then joined the party playing left wing-back, having a lot of joy down the left-hand side. Leicester couldn't handle Preston's speed and desire to get forward, particularly down the sides. Obviously, having gone ahead, there was always going to be a chance that Leicester put on some pressure, but actually it was probably Preston that looked more likely to extend their lead in the first half, which again speaks to this idea that this wasn't some smash and grab underdog win. They were the better side here. And yes, they did defend with discipline and shape, but they also created quite a few chances. In the end, Leicester did equalise, and that's because Jeremy Monga exists.
Fun.
And this is so exciting.
Yep.
He turned 16 a month ago.
Unbelievable.
He was born in 2009 and he looked so good here, coming off the bench, immediately set up a chance, magnificently saved by Iversen, and then getting on the ball and saying, right, I'll do this myself. Cutting inside, little shimmy to throw the defender off balance, little dummy shot to send the defender to the shops, and then smashing it in hard and low.
Saw in the BBC gossip column this morning that he's been linked to both Real Madrid and Barcelona off the back of that.
I can't say I'm that surprised. And then it's 1-1 and you sort of think, well, hold on, are Preston going to lose their nerve a bit here? Are Leicester going to carry on in the ascendancy? Like, how do you respond to a 16-year-old wonder kid coming on and scaring the living daylights out of you? Well, it turns out they responded by getting the winner. And another nice goal it was too. Thierry Small might have made his breakthrough on the right wing for Charlton last season, but it turns out you can also play him on his natural side at left wing back. And with his speed and directness and skill, he will be an asset. And what an assist it was for Osmajic to win it. This was a really good all-round performance from Preston, and the fans loved what they saw, and you can understand why. The centre-backs put in a strong performance as a trio. The wing-backs both got an assist here. Smith and Osmajic as a front two seemed to combine well. Smith, the wily target man. Osmajic, one of the quickest players in the league, and in this game, constantly being able to demonstrate how dangerous he is running in behind. But the star was Daniel Iversen, with an amazing save in particular when Preston were 1-0 up, but a couple of others, and of course against his old club as well, Leicester, where Iversen spent 9.5 years, 6 loans, I think it was, only 12 league appearances for them, and haunting them here. Preston have got a fantastic goalkeeper in nets and need to be absolutely buzzing about that. So a really impressive Sky Bet surprise type victory from Preston North End, but not a smash and grab, a deserved 2-1 victory. And significant, I think, obviously it's early days, but last season, Preston only won 3 games total in 24 games against Championship top half teams. And here, although we don't know where Leicester will finish, and they're not playing very well,
No.
they've beaten a big dog at home, and it sets them up nicely for the next few fixtures. For Leicester, a fairly average display, a fairly average start to the season. Midweek, they lost on pens in the Carabao to Huddersfield as well. But I'd rather just focus on Monga. How often have we had I'm thinking Chris Rigg. I'm obviously thinking Jude Bellingham. Job, to a certain extent, started playing a bit when he was 16. But someone this young, looking like this,
And
for one of the top teams in the Championship. What happens from here?
And what's wild is that this isn't his first. These aren't his first moves into the first team. He played in 7 Premier League games last season, albeit not loads of minutes. So it's not like he's some kid where, because their squad is thin, which it is getting minutes purely for that reason. He's a genuine talent that I think everyone at Leicester is incredibly excited by. And as you say, the goal that he scored, it feels like he's going to get minutes. It doesn't. There's 12 days or so left of the window. It doesn't feel like Leicester are suddenly going to go on a spree and sign loads of players. So it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I think it's important not to go too big too early when a player kind of makes scores their breakthrough goal. That means everyone's going to take notice, but certainly the tools are there for an incredibly exciting player, and just hope that we get to see more of him in the coming months.
So after opening weekend, of the Championship season, George, I tweeted that I had found it very watchable. Whenever I caught live action, which was with regularity throughout opening weekend, I was excited. I was enjoying what I was seeing, and it didn't escape my attention that in the early kickoffs on Saturday we had a 2-1 win for Norwich at Portsmouth, fine, but also a 3-2 win for West Brom at Wrexham and a 5-3 win for Cov at Derby. More watchable football. Tell me about that Derby Cov game. 8 goals in it, split 5-3.
Like, ridiculous game. I mean, I can't really work out what's going on. Like, it feels like there are some managers and some teams, because of their manager, where you kind of feel like you know what is coming. And I would say that John Eustace's Derby County and Gary Rowett's Oxford United were probably the two where you're like, you know what you're going to get. Like, yeah, they might not be the best going forward, but defensively they're going to be so good and so well drilled. And yet Derby look all at sea. Like, absolutely all at sea from a defensive standpoint.
Fully submerged.
And what I would also say, because I watched this live, is that Coventry defensively looked absolutely horrendous as well. Like, it was a game where the goals came not necessarily because of relentless attacking ideology, just because every single team, either team, went forward with any kind of intent or purpose. They seemed able to create chances, obviously aided by the fact that we had 2 penalties, aided by the fact that the defending from set pieces was just atrocious. You know, the first goal scored by Thomas, but it was just effectively a ball that was kind of punched into his head from Zetterstrom to make it 1-0. And then I'd love to know if Callum Elder hadn't watched Joe Ward do it in midweek, would he have even shot with his free kick? Because it was exactly the same goal, just a free kick, which you always expect the player to cross from, and instead he whips it. It's a mirror image from the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side, into the far corner, with leaving the keeper a little chance. It was then a couple of penalties that came next. Haji Wright putting the first away, Carlton Morris putting the second away, before Ebou Adams put Derby 3-2 up just after half-time, and you're thinking, like, this is...
So we had free kick goals, then penalties, then long throw goals.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Adams and the next Cov goal were from long throws.
And Thomas Asante, who kind of hammered the ball over the line on the goal line. And then Mason Clark and Torp scored the 2 goals to make it 5-3 to Coventry, both from open play.
An absolute set-piece smorgasbord.
Yeah, like, it was just a wild game where, you know, in terms of keepers making saves, there was barely any of that. Like, it was just... opportunities being clinically finished due to an ability to either defend set pieces or basically track runners. You know, for Coventry, I think there is real threat that they carry, and we've spoken about them in the past in terms of how good they are from set pieces and how good they are aerially, and that was the case again. You know, they get the ball out wide early, they get crosses in the box, and they tend to cause teams issues. And I think Derby in particular are probably a team that would really bat themselves to defend their box well when you consider they got Matt Clark and Danny Bart, but it just wasn't the case at all. And Derby on the other hand, I wouldn't say looked like a relentless attacking threat, but again, Coventry's defending in their own box was so poor. So, you know, it
sounds like you're not very impressed with either side in a weird way.
It's really hard to be. Like, it's so weird. Like, I messaged you at 3-2 just saying like Coventry's defending is horrific here, because it was. But then also you look at the goals that they scored.
You again, eh?
Huh?
I think I might have ghosted you again there.
I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I just had to say it to someone. But and yeah, you can't tweet that stuff because you just get pelters. So no, I mean, I think I am impressed, certainly from like Coventry's efficiency from an attacking perspective. But I don't think you can see 3 goals against Derby and in the manner that they did. Well, I mean, I guess one's a direct free kick and one's a penalty. I don't know. It was a really, really strange game, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that with Coventry, there's obviously huge upside in terms of what they're doing at the moment, and carrying on from last season and the quality they've got in their squad. So I'm certainly not pouring any cold water over what they achieved in this game. It's Derby that I'm more worried about, really. To concede 8 goals in their first 2 games of the season against Stoke and Coventry. I'm pretty sure we know what's going to come next in terms of what John Eustace is going to try and do, which will be to tighten them up. But what that means for their attacking threat, we will have to see.
Yeah, I mean, Lampard was very excited after this one. I think he said it was one of his favourite wins so far as Coventry manager, obviously against his former club, Derby County.
I love that. It feels like most managers... normally managers, I think, would come away from a 5-3 win being like, yeah, as a manager, you hate that kind of game. You hate it. Like, you've conceded 3, bad defending, fans might love it, but Lamps is just like, yeah, Brilliant. That was fun.
I think he was excited about what he perceived to be great character being shown,
for
George.
sure.
Spirit
Fair enough.
from 3-2 down to 5-3 up in the space of, I think, about 7 minutes in the second half at one point. Really exciting for those Cov fans in the away end. And you could say the same for the West Brom fans who travelled to Wrexham. A 3-2 win. This was, I felt, very watchable. Another Wrexham game, like the Southampton game, that I've enjoyed watching a lot so far. They get a bit of stick for their style of play, but I actually think with the intensity that they are attacking at the moment, it is quite a good watch, and probably a better watch than it was last season. And that's partly because they've got great players at the top of the pitch now. Kiefer Moore recovered amazingly quickly from an ankle injury that he picked up on opening day to play here, and he still looks pretty imperious as a target man and a perfect fit for this team. When it was initially Windass playing off him, who pulled a hamstring. So then we saw their new signing Nathan Broadhead, who they signed from Ipswich late last week for around £7.5 million, rising to 10. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they've massively overpaid for a 27-year-old who is coming into the last year of his contract, and who, I think the most minutes he's ever played in one season in his career is about 25.90s worth. So he's really almost never played more than about half a season worth of football, because he has been hard done by his hamstrings in particular, and by other muscle injuries, but who is, let's be very clear, one of the most exceptional finishers that we've covered in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And that's not just his time at Ipswich, but Sunderland, even on loan at Burton. I remember him catching the eye, and yet he had a big chance at 1-1 here, and it was a perfect Broadhead chance. Gets the first touch away and passes it into the corner, except it went just wide of the post. And that was a big moment, because not long after that, on comes Jedley Wallace with the scores at 1-1. West Brom put together a really nice quick counter-attack. Wallace makes a brilliant run across the defence onto the vacant left side of the attack, and is slipped in and takes a powerful shot to the near post, which goes in past Danny Ward. Now,
why is he in goal?
whether Ward made a handling error or not in this game, I think it was likely that we were going to talk about the fact that Wrexham are starting Ward over Okonkwo. And I find it very surprising on a number of levels, not least on a qualitative level. Okonkwo, as I often mention, highest save percentage in League 2 seasons ago, highest save percentage in League 1 last season, just an exceptional goalkeeper, and has a relationship with his Wrexham teammates already. For that player to be usurped in the space of a pre-season by a goalkeeper that, yes, he has international caps for Wales, and Wrexham are clearly keen to retain some Welsh identity with the signings of Moore and Broadhead and Danny Ward, just cannot possibly make a case that Ward's body of work over the last few years has been anywhere near as impressive as Okonkwo's. And of course, when you're already thinking like that, as I am, you are going to make a meal of any errors. But this was a big error, and it was a costly one. And it's difficult for me to imagine Okonkwo letting that in at his near post, because he's such a sharp and agile shot stopper. So, the game started really nicely, both teams having chances. Isaac Price finishing nicely from a fellow's cutback, and then Lewis O'Brien had equalised. But Jedley pretty much won it, although the game finished 3-2. The 2-1 goal was the key goal. And I'm so pleased for him, because it's someone that we as a pod are very close to, our favourite ever guest on our live show. I know how much you guys have always loved him when he's been on the pod. He's not been on the pod for a while. He's had a tough time. This is a guy who is an ever present in the Championship for Millwall for so many years, and started to pick up some injuries in the last year, which is not something that had ever really afflicted him before, and has basically lost his spot in the Baggy starting 11, partly because Tom Fellows is an absolute phenom and plays in his spot. But for him to, I can be very, very confident that he is still unbelievable around the dressing room, unbelievable on the training pitch, a brilliant leader and a mentor for some of the young attacking players. And you could see how buzzing everyone was that Jedley had scored the winner, and we were too. But probably Isaac Price is the real story when it comes to West Brom, because even before he scored, all I would notice when West Brom were building up was his movement between the lines. And Wrexham weren't putting a huge amount of pressure on the ball at the back line and the two midfielders. So you are looking ahead of the ball and you think, how are they going to pierce this Wrexham shape? And more often than not, it was Price making really good lateral movements, being found in the 10 spot, and then going from there. And that's what stands out most of all to me, on top of the fact that, of course, he scored 2 goals in this game, finishing a nice cutback and then attacking the box and scoring a header to make it 3-1. They signed him from Standard Liège in January. Interesting story there, because Standard Liège's director of football at that time was a guy called Fergal Harkin, who'd spent a long time with the City Football Group and Man City as a scout, a senior scout. And then he was Standard's director of football, sporting director. He signed quite a lot of British-based, often English-speaking players, including Isaac Price from Everton, where he spent his youth career. Fergal Harkin is now the Bolton director of football. So if there are any Bolton fans listening to the Championship segment, just know that the guy's starring, and a young attacking midfield player starring for West Brom, looking like they've got incredible value in the transfer market, was signed by your man Fergal. I've also been very moved by Auna Hegeba, who they call Hulken. And I think you can see why here. That he made Conor Cody look like a rag doll during this game. And I like, because he's not tall, he's not a jumbo front man like a lot of the strikers at the moment. He's not a 6'3" beanpole. He shows that short dudes can be strong too. And I think that's a good message. Quite impressed by West Brom in the main here. It was an enjoyable game to watch. I think Wrexham have been okay in both games so far. Obviously 0 points to show for it. They just don't look very tight defensively at all, and that is a big concern because that's what they have been at lower levels.
The cornerstone of their success.
Teams seem to be finding it, George, quite easy to get into the final third, and then their solidity defending their own box looks a lot weaker against better teams, better attacks, better individual players, and that is a bit of a concern. So good win for West Brom. Tell me about Stoke going to Wednesday, winning 3-0, scoring, while the Tannoy was still chatting to Wednesday fans about any behaviours that they might be thinking about. Stoke went 1-0 up.
Yeah, Wednesday would have come into this full of belief after their midweek Carabao Cup penalty win, and within a minute they are 1 goal behind. Million Manhoof looking really sharp, capitalising on some good work from John Hobey, who kind of pressed high and won the ball back and slipped him through with a decent finish. Mabama looked really lively again.
The one that got cleared off the line. Oh, the touch and then the touch and then the little dink.
I think he looks really exciting in terms of both his movement, but also his finishing ability. And as you say, the one that cleared off the line, it was such a confident little dink. And it was, it's hard. Sometimes I think you can just basically see instinct. I felt like in that case, this is a guy who knows exactly how to score goals. And he scored the goal after half-time to put them 2-0 up after a really good bit of work from Sorba Thomas, who looks great, looking really lively down that left-hand side with Manhoof playing off the right. Before Manhoof got the third goal with another assist from Sorba. Barry Bannon went close with a bicycle kick with a really good effort. Wednesday were by no means...
That was a great save by
really
Victor.
Good save, yeah.
Come on.
Went close?
No, but you didn't mention the save.
Nah, that's right.
There's an EFL goalkeeper that listens to this podcast. Whose one bit of constructive feedback when we asked him what he thought was, you need to mention the goalkeeper's full names when you see the goalkeepers make a good save. Victor
Hansen made an incredible save from a bicycle kick from a Sheffield Wednesday player. It was, for Wednesday, it's funny because obviously it's not funny. It's anything but funny. But in terms of the actual performances, I think they've been way better value than the 1 goal scored, 5 goals conceded, and 0 points that we see them have. And obviously expected to be rooted to the bottom of the league. But I'm not entirely sure. If anything, I'd come away from watching their 2 games so far with more hope that they can be competitive than I had beforehand, despite the fact that the results haven't gone their way. And I strongly believe that without a red card, they'd have got something out of the Leicester game on opening day too. So, and this was always going to be difficult having gone behind as early as they did. But I'm certainly not calling Wednesday whipping boys as of yet. And that, we're still seeing some reports that there might be buyers around for Wednesday, which would obviously be the most important thing for them. Wednesday, again, as we say every week, just praying there's good news on that front and that they can remain competitive in the meantime. And Stoke, what a start for them to score 3 goals in their first game, 3 goals in their second game. Probably an element where they're, playing Derby with the form of that win, given they've conceded 5 next time out. And then Wednesday, it's probably a relatively kind start for them, but they couldn't have answered any critics better than the way they've started. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Mabama getting called up to the England under-21s, hopefully next month. Good time to plug the England pod, which is me and George's pod about England, where we talk about things like England under-21s and the England men's senior team and the Lionesses. And hopefully Divine Mabama will be scoring away in Kazakhstan with the 21s. Lee Carsey's Unders Army, of course, back-to-back European champions. No Stoke fans probably hoping he doesn't go to Kazakhstan.
Probably, yeah. A little muscle injury in the last game before the international break might scupper it, but no, he deserves it. And look, the number 9 spot in that under-21s squad now that Delap because Delap didn't go to the Euros, was looking like one of the weakest spots. So it'd be really great if Mabama is as good as we hope he is. Suddenly things will be looking a bit healthier on that front in terms of the talent pathway. Blackburn 1, Birmingham 2, but not just Blackburn 1, Birmingham 2. That scoreline doesn't even get anywhere near what happened here. Who did Blackburn, George?
You make it sound as if that wasn't actually the score then.
No, it was. It was. Birmingham scored 2 goals in injury time to come back from 1-0 down and beat Blackburn here. Quiz question for you.
Yeah.
Sort of one of those great sort of virally type football-y, bantery stories from 10 years ago.
My favourite.
Who did Blackburn famously almost buy as a young player before he became really famous, but was scuppered by a volcanic ash cloud?
Yeah, I remember this. Who was it?
World-class number 9, who sort of hewn out of marble and rock, comes from Poland.
Lewandowski.
This was as close as Ewood Park has got to Lewandowski. Lyndon Dykes.
Okay.
Scoring the winner. That was long-winded.
How does your brain work?
That was long-winded. Lyndon Dykes wins it for Birmingham. And, really, really good movement from Dykes to get in front of the defender and get a toe on the ball across from Damari Gray. Bedlam in the away end, 7,000 Birmingham City fans who are on the journey of their lives at the moment. I should also shout out Todd Cantwell, who scored a beautiful volley.
Great strike.
First time, well struck into the corner to put Blackburn 1 up in a game where teams had basically been cancelling each other out entirely up to that point. There really hadn't been very much action, and the excellent Birmingham performances that we'd enjoyed from their first 2 games, one in the league, one in the cup, took a while to come out here. Laird ended up winning a penalty, Laird coming on at left back and playing really well, just like he did in midweek at right back, winning a penalty. Some Rovers fans didn't seem too happy about this one. I thought it was a pretty nailed on pen, leg on leg connection. Stansfield scores it, 1-1. There's been a bit of stuff around Stansfield scoring loads of pens towards the back end of last season.
That was.
But he's really good at them.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's good at that one. He missed a couple, didn't he, where he didn't look very good. But that's such a good penalty because the keeper knows which way he's going to go and dives early enough, but it's still so powerful and so accurate that he can't get to it.
And especially because of the game state, like it kind of feels like a penalty that's quite easy to score if you're 3-0 up and doesn't really matter. Whereas the fact is it's 1-0, it's injury time, you've got a penalty that you think is going to be for a point, but to give you a chance of the win, and he dispatches it like it's no trouble. But this is, because with the Stansfield stuff, you bring up the open play record, right? And the fact that last season was 19 goals, 10 pens, 9 open play goals. And some people don't like it, and they're like,
I really hope for the sake of our comment section you got that right.
I'll check. But people say, people are like, well, I mean, the penalties, they still count. And it's like, yeah, of course they do. Like mentioning what the penalty count is compared to open play goals no one's trying to take those goals away. No one's saying like he isn't really good at penalties, but you cannot rely on penalties as a striker. And if you're analysing a striker's performance and how good a striker they are, incorporating penalties into that is foolish. Like you can be like, yeah, he's a good penalty taker, that's a positive, but it's not an effective way of analysing their movement and their finishing ability in open play. And that's why it's relevant. It's not, by pulling away the penalties, you're not saying like they don't count or like he hasn't done well to score them. It's a different thing. For
sure. Well, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here.
I'm not talking to you.
I'm
just looking at you.
Big non-pen goals guy. And you also nailed that stat, by the way, where you've dug that out of. I mean, you're a remarkable guy with a great brain. The good news is, of course, that Stansfield has scored 2 open play goals this season already, and both very, very nicely taken. So
only one in the league.
One in the cup, one in the league, one in the...
Yeah, but the 19... The 10-9 is league only. I don't know what happened in the cups last year.
You don't recognise cup goals. Okay. So many rules here.
So penalty cup goals in particular, they're a double negative, so they're huge. That's kind of like goes the other way.
What I thought was really notable was that after the equaliser in injury time, you'd have thought then it would be Blues piling on the pressure, but it was actually Blackburn who went up the other end and kept some pretty intense pressure on. It was their own corner, poorly taken, headed away at the near post. And there's just that, I love counter-attack goals so much. And there's a moment that just really gets my blood pumping, which is the moment where a counter-attack is about to start. And this happened here, and you suddenly realise there are 6 Birmingham players sprinting full pelt, like a sort of Red Army. advancing. And there's only like 3 Blackburn players doing the same, running back towards their own goal. And you just think, this is on, even though you're still 90 yards away from goal. Gray, Damari, that is, initially I thought he'd sort of run it out too wide, and then he managed to get the ball across. Absolutely brilliant movement from Dykes and diverting it in for some scenes. So, sickener for Rovers, because a good performance. And look, I picked Birmingham to win on the betting show. This is one of the luckiest winners I'll ever have, let alone this season, for many reasons. And the way that I thought the game played out or would play out wasn't the case. Rovers were more than a match for them. But at the moment, it seems like everything's coming up Birmingham City and Blackburn, the latest victims of that. Pompey 1, Norwich 2. Early kickoff on Saturday. Early 2-goal lead as well from Norwich, both from set pieces. Harry Darling heading home a very nicely delivered Marcelino Nunez free kick. And then, that's Harry Darling, by the way, who once scored 10 in a season under Liam Manning at MK. Then he'd been keeping a long throw secret, Harry Darling, until this week, where Liam Manning said they saw him messing about in training. And we're like, oh, you could do a long throw.
Is that what happened?
That's what he said. You might... If I know Liam Manning, there's probably not that much messing about.
I was thinking when I was
training.
watching that, yeah, true. Yeah, but Hoggy might be messing about there. When I saw that, I was like, is there any way Harry Darling could launch it and then keep running and try and get into the box at the same time?
What?
For the third, because you want him in the box, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like, shown by the first goal.
The how absurd is the Saints, the 6'6" Saints guy Kwashi is taking their long throws. So like this is all wrong.
You want him,
albeit there is a reason for it, right? Because tall blokes have longer levers, so it's easier to get. You know, he'd be better at serving in tennis as well. It's all about angles.
We're lucky with Volks and Curry that it's like, yeah, fine. We don't need you in the box.
Yeah, that is nice. What was I going to say? Yeah, Darling, long throw, flicked on, very brave header from Josh Sargent in the 6-yard box. Sargent has scored like Stansfield in all 3 games this season, including the cup game, and is looking exceptionally sharp. And then they had quite a lot to thank their new goalkeeper, Kovacevic, for here. One massive save from open play, one massive save from the penalty spot, as Portsmouth sort of came on a bit stronger in the second half, as you'd expect. And it was Segacic again. Such a good strike. I mean,
he's a good ball striker.
He hits it hard. Segsy, as I call him. Struth, he can hit a ball. Yeah. And Kovacevic couldn't keep it out, really, despite getting a hand to it. So we had that. We had Swift hitting the bar with what would have been a worldy equaliser. A lot of pressure. And although this was better from Norwich compared to opening day, that second half performance against Millwall, I wouldn't say there's much about the win that blows me away. They'll be delighted to have got the 3 points. That's very important. The most important thing, blah, 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 blah. But like, you know, still want to see a bit more over the next few games. And I hope that's okay to say. I think we all have quite high expectations of Portsmouth in home games because they had such a good record last season. So this feels a bit disappointing, the manner of the goals conceded, which gave them a mountain to climb. And they only climbed halfway. 2-1 Norwich. Talked about the old Sunday 3 p.m. kickoff slot. Not a classic. Hull Oxford moved for some sort of rugby thing. Quite annoying that, and probably quite annoying for you to watch the score updates come in. 1-0 Hull. 1-1 Oxford. Wee. 2-1 Hull. 2-2 Oxford. Wee. ... Injury time. 3-2 Hull. McBurney.
Yeah, you've summed it up. Let's move on. Yeah, pretty annoying. Both in terms of when the game was. We've got another one. Bristol City away has also been moved for rugby.
What's going on? I know. Priorities.
What's wrong. What's the national sport? It's not rugby. Yeah. So another goal within a minute or so. Joe Galhart, I think the clock had just struck 1 minute when he kind of slalomed down the right hand side.
Put poor Elliot Moore in a spin cycle.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole game was a spin cycle for poor Elliot. The headline here is Hull, right? So we'll talk about Hull in a second.
Short headline.
And start with Oxford. Personnel who are missing are a big issue for Oxford right now, where you've got Kieran Brown, who was player of the year last season, who is Oxford's one left-footed, left-sided centre-back, who is relatively quick for a centre-back as well, and pretty dominant, and he's out injured. And Jordan Thornley, who's our other left-footed centre-back, well, Stuart Finley as well, but I don't think he really counts, because he never would have played. They're both out on loan. So instead we have Michal Elek and Elliot Moore playing as the 2 centre-backs, who are incredibly similar in terms of both their strengths and weaknesses. Both very, very good in the air, both okay on the ball, at more, maybe a little bit better, maybe Elek a better kind of one-on-one defender. Both really slow, and consistently teams playing against us, especially with Greg Lee playing left back, who isn't the best positionally, are just getting in behind us consistently, and it's frustrating to watch. And then you've got Will Volks and Cameron Brannigan playing as a midfield two in a 4-4-2, and neither of them are particularly mobile. Brannigan's been playing with a knee injury for the last 18 months, and it's showing. Volks is obviously very combative in terms of he likes to tackle, but he's not a very good mover. And again, it means that teams are just able to play through us at ease. So those are Oxford's issues, and Gary Rowett cut a pretty frustrated figure after the game. He basically said, I don't know when we're going to get players back, and I have no idea if we're going to sign any players, to paraphrase him, which is a bit of a worry, given he's been very vocal in the fact that he believes we need players. So that's a concern. Will Lankshire's finish for the first was very good, his first professional goal, and I have a feeling he's a very good player, basically, which is an exciting thing.
Good news for the England pod as well.
Yes, well done. Very good. Another player, good news for the England pod, Joe Gelhardt. Maybe one day. So in talking about Hull and focusing on Hull, because they were good, especially in possession, I would say defensively they were not good, and they looked like a team that hadn't done much winning, because every time they went ahead, Oxford would come forward with a rare foray and score, in part thanks to some hesitant defending or an inability to clear their lines. But they were really good in possession. Gelhardt, to say, with a really good run and finish for the first, albeit Jamie Cumming beaten his near post, Matt Crooks with the second after 20 minutes or so. And then in the second half, although Phillips had one shot that was really well saved by Panda, it was pretty relentless pressure from Hull. It didn't necessarily always look like they were going to make the breakthrough, because Oxford kind of defended their box pretty well. But when the goal came, it was both very satisfying, I would say, from a Hull perspective, with Ryan Giles doing some great work down the left-hand side, playing a ball into McBurney with a great touch and great finish. If you're watching that goal with your Hull glasses on, you're going to be very happy. If you're an Oxford fan, you are wondering, A, how Giles has got in behind so easily, and B, how there are four players between Jamie Cumming in goal and Ollie McBurney when he takes a strike, and none of them think to maybe press him or close him down after he takes that touch, and he has so much time to pick out the corner. And then we went up the other end and nearly scored again, with Dembele having a header on the line where if he's just a little bit taller, he probably nods it in. So, I mean, Hull completely deserving the 3 points. Their 11 is good, and John Lundstrom was absolutely brilliant in the middle of the park, just completely dictating the game, and had the midfield at his mercy, to be frank, throughout. Giles was lively down the left-hand side. Gelhardt was a consistent threat. They looked pretty good to me, albeit they have sterner tests defensively, and they didn't look to me to be a particularly solid defensive side. But certainly going forward, they're impressive.
Yeah, we've always been quite big Ollie McBurney fans, I think it's fair to say. And one of the things I remember is doing some analysis on him when he was much younger, I think on Sky Sports News, maybe, back in the Sky Sports News days. And we were very keen to make the point that although he's big and a number 9 that likes to put himself around a bit, he's also got great vision and loves to combine with teammates, and is quite a good passer. And I think we saw that in his assist for Crooks, which was just really smart, one-touch pass into a player well positioned, or better positioned. Really impressive stuff, as well as the goal that he scored to win it. He looked pretty good in midweek against Wrexham as well. So great addition for Hull in the last couple of weeks. And we had a win at Swansea, for Swansea, 1-0 against Sheffield United. In the 2-minute highlights package, there's not a single Sheffield United chance. Now, they did have 8 shots in the game, none hitting the target, and it was Swansea whose opportunities were consistently more dangerous. It still took them a while to get the winner, Ronald smashing in around 65 minutes in, but just constantly exploiting continued Sheffield United issues, particularly defending when they turn the ball over. Just so much space to play into, defenders that don't look very comfortable running back towards their own goal, and frankly, why should they? It's not a comfortable situation for defenders to be in. This was a very, very comfortable 1-0 win, and that bodes well for Swansea, but mainly it's further alarm bells for Sheffield United for me. Alex, Swans fan, a very happy one indeed on the squad, saying Ethan Galbraith is the man. And also, possibly more surprisingly for me, because I already knew that Ethan Galbraith is the man, that their new Brighton loanee, Yalkuye.
Is he the man?
Looks a tidy player.
Okay.
He's not the man. but he could become the man. And when I read the following sentence from the NTT20.com transfer bulletin about Yalkuye,
Okay.
like, could you have a sentence that would lend itself to Ali Maxwell loving you before he's ever seen you play before? Brighton loanee, who spent last season with title-winning Sturm Graz in Austria, where he made 36 appearances, 8 in the Champions League, took home the Newcomer of the Season award, and won a place in the Austrian Bundesliga Team of the Season.
Oh.
And now he plays for Swansea, and I'm pretty excited about that. Their home form under Alan Sheehan, very, very encouraging at all. And yeah, I mean, look, we did quite a big bit on Blades last week. We did quite a bit on Blades midweek in the Under the Lights show on NTT20.com. So all I'll say is I didn't see anything that made me feel much better about them, and I feel like I was a bit of a Blades skeptic. Some of the stuff that we did over the summer, in particular, raising some red flags about what I thought might be issues with the decisions they were making, but I couldn't have imagined a start like this.
They look awful. They've been outclassed in the Carabao Cup by Birmingham, where they couldn't really get a kick, and they've lost 2 games to Bristol City and Swansea, neither of whose performances either side of their defeats against Sheffield United suggested too much. Although, as you say, maybe Alan Sheehan listens to the pod, because we were here saying, why is Joe Fulton starting in the middle of a 3 with Galbraith shovelled over to the left-hand side? Fulton on the bench, Galbraith in the middle, he's quality, job done.
Easy.
Yeah.
Job done. Job done for Watford at home to QPR. George Palapezzolano made some kind of big calls here, mainly Quadwo Barb starting on the bench after a sparkling display in midweek. But also, I haven't checked to see what was happening out of possession, but certainly in possession, we've got Hector Cipriani playing left centre-back, which is a bit of fun. I thought it was one of those Scores app formation errors, but no, very much left centre-back in possession.
Have you seen the heat map, like the average position map? It's fun. I mean, it's just kind of a lot of players, basically like a back 3, and then it's just everyone else just go forward, which is enjoyable. Yeah, I mean, I saw a few Watford fans on social media suggesting that this was going to be quite an important game, because the new manager, good feeling, would maybe dissipate a little bit if they weren't able to see off QPR at home in Pezzolano's first home game in charge in the league. And it certainly helps that Luca Kierkegaard, their new striker, who looks pretty lively, scored 2 really nicely taken goals here within kind of 4 minutes of each other. And also helped by the fact that Irankunda, their new exciting Australian signing, provided the assist for the first as well, which, given how, a lot of Watford fans, we've been told, he's someone to watch this season, who came in from Bayern Munich. Kieran Morgan scored a brilliant strike from the edge of the area to make it 2-1, but Watford were really, really good value for their win. And it feels like the first step for them this season under their new boss. I'm pretty concerned about QPR, I must say. I know that they rested a lot of players in midweek, but that was still a team that Julian Stefan set out, and up against an Argyle side who are pointless from 3 games in League One, and they conceded about 7 expected goals or something stupid, for those who didn't listen to Under the Lights. And then here against Watford, they were kind of well off it and were second best, and arguably could have lost the game by more than the 2-1 scoreline. So I mean, some early concerns there. Loser getting sent off for a second yellow.
Was it?
Oh no, it wasn't. It was straight
up,
red.
I think.
Yeah, and it was fair enough. Like, it's again, one. I don't think there's much malice in it, but the ball was kind of high. He goes up in with his leg incredibly high to try and get the ball,
weird.
But gets their second, and therefore his leg just goes straight into the oppo's chest with a stud showing, which you can't really do.
No.
So yeah, good win for Watford. QPR on my kind of watch list at the moment. Obviously very, very early days, but I kind of was maybe expecting a little bit more.
Yeah, that Kieran Morgan goal, reminiscent of the famous Stephen Reed goal, classic Premier League strike where he hits the ball on the bounce from that exact spot as it bounced outside the box. And I think, certainly, and this might be apocryphal, but I think, wasn't it the most powerful shot ever recorded? Like 200 miles an hour.
That was Chloe Kelly's penalty.
Broken by Chloe Kelly's penalty. Kieran Morgan, what a hit, son. What a hit. Ipswich drew 1-1 with Southampton. Still not sure if we learned a huge amount about these two teams in this game. An early Harwood Bellis own goal was cancelled out by Jay Robinson. So I'll talk about him instead of any personal analysis. One of the most eye-catching players of the season so far, an 18-year-old who is not just starting because there's quite a lot up in the air when it comes to Southampton and attacking players that may or may not leave. He's starting because he deserves to. He's been probably their standout player so far. Number 10, or plays off the left or plays up top. Good size for a young lad, good close control. Seems like an aerial threat, scored the header here, but also went close against Wrexham. Threat inside the box, can shoot off both feet from the clips that I was watching over the weekend. Really, really exciting. Will Still with some nice quotes afterwards. He's a great kid, he's positive, brave, wants the ball, runs at people, reads the game really well too. So, always excited when there's a kind of an emerging star. And I think in Robinson, as well as obviously Monger at Leicester, looks like we've got a couple towards among the big dogs in the Championship. And then Bristol City 0, Charlton 0 was a match that happened in impressive away performance from Nathan Jones's Charlton.